This video podcast is brought to you by McCarter Online.
Yes, my grandfather was a Baptist minister. And it's actually, see, the funny thing is people are always like, well, what's your first experience in the theater like? And I was like, well, it kind of wasn't in the theater, it was at church. And my grandfather got up and he did this, he was preaching the story of Lazarus one Sunday. And he's probably rolling over his he's like, he took my damn speech and went off to become an actor instead of a preacher like I told him to. And he did, he was preaching the story of Lazarus, and he said, I remember him saying, you know, Lazarus was dead over here, and when Jesus came back to town, Mary went running to Jesus, and she like did it. He was like performative. He was like, I am Jesus over here, I am Jesus over here, and I'm going to, he like performed all of the people. He was Jesus, he was Mary, he was Lazarus laying on the ground, and I was just like, Granddad is good. Like, I could see it, and I remember being touched, because I could like feel it. I was like, oh my, and he like, you know, he's like, and Mary grabbed up her skirt and ran. I was like, how do you know she had on a skirt? Because I was thinking the same thing, and you know, it's just all of these things that touched me so, and I was like, this is something, this thing, whatever that is, and that performative nature of telling you a story and embarking on how important it was. And he told us how, you know, Mary got down on her knees, and, you know, the way he said, got down on her knees and said, Lord, why hast thou forsaken me? If you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And Jesus stood up and called his name 3 times, Lazarus, and then called him 3 times. I mean, all of it was just so epic. And it was one man on a podium. And I thought that to me was extraordinary. And the church was on fire. You know what I mean? There were parts that were just explosive, and there were parts that were so quiet. But all of it was just from one person talking to a group of people that sat in front of him, that weren't far away. So for me, it was, I remembered that, and I remember things like that. And you know, my grandfather and I were very close until, of course, the gay thing happened. But even then we were close. I remember my grandfather being very much like, my grandfather and I have a great love for the Bible, and he had read the Bible by the time he was 10, all the way through. And I remember I had gotten halfway through, and I was like, I can't get through it. You know, I just can't get through it anymore. But I remember him saying, you know, that the world he grew up in didn't exist anymore. And far be it from him to sort of try and encapsulate me in that world. Because I was born of his stock, but I had to, of course, grow and mature in a world that had different soil, as it were. So I think what he was trying to say to me was that he respected what I was trying to do and how I was trying to do it. He was always loving. He didn't understand everything, but that never stopped his affection. So that was always, that was an important reminder to me about how we pass on to next generations, because I feel like sometimes we get in this mindset of, what are you kids up to? And even me, I'm like, what the hell are they doing? But at the same time, there's a part of me that says, you don't know the world that they're growing up in. You don't know it fully. You know your world and your perspective and the people around you, but there's something that they have, that they're doing, that they're enduring, that you don't quite know about. And so you have to let them find their way and find their way to the podium themselves. And so a lot of me keeps trying to be that generous as my grandfather, as generous as August Wilson was to me, as generous as Emily is to me, as generous as Richard Nelson is to me, as generous as a lot of artists who could easily say, you're a kid, you don't know anything, have been to me. I must turn around and be to other people. So that's a part of that church upbringing as well, to me.
This podcast has been brought to you by McCarter Theater in Princeton, New Jersey. For tickets, call 609-258-ARTS or visit www.mccarter.org.